Let me welcome Chair of the Democratic National Committee, Mr. Jaime Harrison.
Hey, Karen.
Hey.
Thank you for having me again.
No, listen, you have an open seat here. We have to learn how to navigate all levers of power. And we were talking, this is, let me introduce you to Qasim Rashid, who you'll probably know. He's going to be in Congress. You probably already know him. At some point, he's going to be in Congress over the next 3 or 4 years. So you should know this man. But we were talking about what's going on at our border with our Haitian brothers and sisters and how they're riding in with the whips and the horses and they're seeking asylum and yet not receiving dignity. I believe that this administration has handled this poorly. How do we do better, Jaime Harrison?
Well, Karen, I got some of the images and stuff of what's going on down there this morning. Actually reached out to some folks at the White House, some of the president's senior advisors. I know Secretary Mayorkas is down there now working through it. And I know that they're working to make sure that they treat folks in a dignified and humane fashion. Some of the things that, we will do better. We have to do better. And so, it's something that I'm now keeping my eyes and ears attuned to. Hopefully I'll get a report from the secretary or from folks who are working with the secretary about what the game plan is moving forward to make sure that all of those folks that are there are treated in the most humane fashion, that they're given the food and the water and the treatment that is so necessary and so important that we give.
Chairman Harrison, one of the things I wanted to ask was, how do we ensure there's accountability for the officers who engage in this kind of abusive behavior? Asylum, as you know, is a human right. And the way you apply for asylum is you cross a border and you apply for asylum and you have a full year to do that. And there's a due process of law, which is a sacred, tenet of our Constitution. Those officers who engage in this just grotesque violence of, literally whipping Haitian immigrants, women and children trying to escape, tyranny and violence. How do we ensure there's accountability there so that this doesn't happen again and this kind of behavior is stopped at the root?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we have in our federal government, an outside aspect of every department is an inspector general. And it is somebody that looks at the actions that take place in each agency and each sub-agency to make sure that people are adhering to the law, that they are treating people and giving folks due process, that they're treating them in a humane fashion. And so I'm, seeing one of the things that I'm sure will happen is people will be observing and seeing what happens in this situation and acting accordingly. If any rules and regulations or in terms of things that have been broken and have not been followed, I am sure that in this administration that they're going to make sure that there is some accountability.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I think that lack of accountability in the previous administration has scarred a lot of people. And it's something that historically the rich and powerful, get away with. And I think that's why your campaign for Senate was so inspiring last year, because you ran on a platform of accountability and justice. And now we have a trifecta government and we want to see that pushed through. And so I know a lot of progressives and Democrats are especially frustrated when we see things like the filibuster prevent the things that we worked so hard for, knocked so many doors for, raised so much money for. And this archaic, racist Jim Crow era legacy is preventing that from happening. What do we need to do, or how can we encourage President Biden to put pressure where he needs to put pressure and remove this racist obstacle from the progress that millions, hundreds of millions of Americans have given the Democratic Party a mandate to get done?
Yeah. Qasim, I know just last week the president met one-on-one with Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema. He's going to have more conversations with them moving forward and with some others as well to push on this agenda. We got to be able to deliver for the American people. That's bottom line. Right. What people want, people don't give a shit about the filibuster or this and that. They care about whether or not you're actually delivering for them and their families and their communities. That's what they really care about. So as long as you overcome whatever obstacle that is, bottom line, they don't care how you get it done. They just want it done. And so I know I met with the president on Monday and the vice president on Tuesday, and I know that they both want to be able to deliver for the American people on the issue of voting rights, on the issue of care. I mean, just this morning, I heard about, how childcare is becoming such a major issue in the lives of a lot of folks right now. Yeah. They just can't afford it. One, you got childcare professionals that are quitting. And so that means getting a spot in the daycare is even becoming much more difficult. And a lot of folks just can no longer afford it. Well, you know what's in that reconciliation package? Some relief for childcare for a lot of working families. That's why that's so important. And that's not just one state. That's not like New York or New Jersey. That's all of the states where folks desperately need some help and some relief so that they can get back to work and provide for their families, so that they can make a decent wage in order to provide for their families. So that they can go up on roads and drive to work so they can provide for their families. Ultimately, it goes back to providing for your families and your communities. And that's what we're trying to do. What the package, I think the two packages, the infrastructure, the hard infrastructure, and the human infrastructure components. That's why both of these things are so important to get done. And so I constantly tell Democrats is, stop with the op-eds, stop with making threats on the radio and on TV and everything. Get yourself in the damn room, get together and come up with a solution so that we can deliver for the American people. That's what people want.
But there's no consequence, though. Hold on. There's no consequence for them not doing it. And what do we do with Joe Manchin? Like, we can have these nice words, and yes, I told them not to do it, or I told them that, but there's no consequence for them not doing it other than not being elected. But that hurts us, right? So it's almost like a horrible position that the American people are in, because in order to get things done, we need our elected officials to get it together. If they don't get it together, then we're not going to vote for them. But that means that the other side, who apparently they're in states where they don't care about their people, Kentucky, Louisiana, Texas, they don't give a damn about their people, Alabama, Mississippi, they don't care, South Carolina, about their people. So they're okay with not getting anything done because their people are used to not getting things. So now we end up with another president and a Congress that's going to send us back another 50 years. And before we know it, you and I are going to be singing Dixie.
Well, Karen, you see the frustration I have. There's a reason why I don't have any hair, right? I didn't have any hair before this, but I ain't growing none anytime soon because of it. It's hard right now. I remember when I was a young staffer, I actually went to UK. I was Jim Cloburn's floor director in the whip's office. And so I met with my counterpart over there. And, over in the UK, they have something. They don't run in single member districts. Single member, and I know this is getting a little wonky for some of these folks, but I want you to understand that when you're over in Parliament in UK, to get on the line of, the Liberal Party, whatever party it is, the party allows you to get on their line. We don't have that control over here. Anybody can run as a Democrat. All they have to do is submit their filing fee and whatever, and then they're automatically on the ballot as a Democrat. Well, you don't do that over in the UK. The party has to put you on their line on the UK. And if you step outside of the bounds, then the party will take you off, right? So there's a lot more authority to keep people in line and to get things done. Well, we don't have that. All we have is the influence that we can provide to folks and push them in the right direction to do the right thing. It becomes increasingly difficult. It really does.
But there's still things that we can do. I mean, remove committee assignments, remove, influence over the budget, cut off funding for their reelection or cut off funding for their campaigns. I mean, there's still things that
Qasim, in terms of, a lot of people tell me all the time, why don't you just take away the funding for this? And well, one, the DNC doesn't provide funding to candidates. Candidates raise their own money,
right?
For the most part, right? When I raised all that money for my campaign, it wasn't because the DSCC was pouring money into my campaign. No, that was Jaime Harrison putting his happy ass on the plane, going back and forth from New York to California and all that, raising my own money. It wasn't until I started raising money that I started getting money from the party. But they want to see that you raise money first. So that is not a lot of people say, well, that's a threat. Well, that's, for a lot of these folks, that is not a threat, because they've raised their own money into their campaign so that they move that forward. So again, all you have is your power to persuade. You have your power to galvanize people in their districts to stand up and to speak out. And so I wish we had a lot of the real tools that people think you have in order to get people to do things, but you don't. Now, when you say in terms of taking, when you got, you don't have a margin in the Senate, it is 50-50 Senate. In essence, you can't get any slimmer on the Senate. So therefore, if somebody gets a cold in the Senate on your side, you lose control, right? So you got to be careful. And I just want to walk people through. You got to be careful with what you do, because in essence, you then give the full control. Because at this point, we still have gavels and there's stuff that we can get done, but you give full control to the other side in Mitch McConnell and you get nothing done. Maybe you get 50% done now, or 65 or 70%, but you get nothing done when Mitch McConnell's in control of the Senate. And you only have a 3-seat margin in the House. So we have a slim majority. So the thing that I tell people the most that you have control over at this point in time, yes, we're going to push and apply pressure, because we got to deliver for the American people. But in order to get out of this situation, we need more bodies. We need to get more seats in the Senate so that we're not relying on 1 or 2 or 3 people to determine whether or not we do things. We need more seats in the House so that it's not 1 or 2 or 3 people who can hold up the progress of things so that we can do things. But when you have these slim majorities, this is a part of the sausage making process that is ugly, that I hate, that I don't like, but that is somewhat necessary in order to try to eventually get something onto the president's desk.
That's Jaime Harrison, head of the DNC. He's with us. Qasim Rashid is here as well. And as you're talking, I'm still like super frustrated, because I feel like it's still just talk. What do we do? What's the strategy, right? There's like that. The Republicans have a messaging. It's real it's easy. It's real simple. They know how to, tweak people's fears. They have those little pithy sayings. I feel like there's no strong messaging, even around this issue with the Haitians right now. Like there's nothing. I've asked our folk to, contact their congressperson and their senators, and then at Joe Biden and let's, tell them we don't like this. But outside of that, how do we stop this? How do we get things done?
Well, I think that the big thing is, in terms of getting things done, and this is what I'm trying to do, Karen, in terms of my role as DNC chair, is for far too long, the organization that we've had on the ground has been weak, right? We should have larger majorities in the House and Senate, but we don't right now. So the question is, how do we get those so that we can get more done and deliver for the American people? I think the message is clear, that when Democrats are in charge, when we are in office, we try our best and our hardest in order to deliver for the American people. Now, people say, well, Jaime, what if Democrats deliver? The American Rescue Plan was a big damn bill in order to get delivered. Right now, there are people, 3 million kids who have gotten out of poverty. It's temporarily, but hopefully we can make it permanent with the reconciliation package. But now parents are getting those checks in the mail. And folks, if you got your check from the IRS and you're saying, well, where did this money came from? This money came from the Democratic Party voting for the American Rescue Plan in the early part of the year, along with the $1,400 that you got for every person in your household in the early part of the year. That happened because you all went to vote in November of last year, and you voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for president and vice president, and you voted for Democrats in majority in the House and the Senate, and they got that bill on the floor. They passed it without one Republican vote for it. That is why you are now receiving those receipts right now, those funds into your bank account. Now, we are going to try to continue that. We're going to try to put broadband into communities with this hard infrastructure bill, fixing the roads and the bridges, clean water into some of our communities where the water looks as brown as my shoe right now. We are going to try to make sure that we address those states that have not had Medicaid expansion. Jim Clyburn's working on that right now to get into that reconciliation bill. So if you live in South Carolina, you live in Georgia, where your Republicans have refused to expand Medicaid, that we're actually going to try to expand Medicaid through the federal government in that reconciliation package. Prescription drug prices, trying to bring those lower, put dental and vision into Medicare. So there are things that we are working on right now to deliver for the American people, but we got to put pressure on the system. So if you want to do something, call your senator, call your congressperson, tell them that you want that infrastructure bill passed, you want the the reconciliation bill passed. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, call them and let them know that that is what you want. That is part of the message that we get out. Now, when we get those passed, then what I want the message for Democrats who are running this term to be is Democrats deliver. They deliver. Things that we enjoy right now, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the American Rescue Plan, the Affordable Care Act, all of those things, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, all of those things were delivered under Democratic controlled Congress and a Democratic president. So there's a lot that we can rely on, and that's a very simple message. You can talk about more specifically what you delivered on in the communities, but that is the message, that when you elect Democrats, we work our butts off for you and your families, and we deliver. Now, is it always clean? Is it always easy? No. I wish it was a lot easier, because sometimes we make it too hard on ourselves. But there are a lot of people working hard right now.
One of the things that I really appreciated you did at the DNC was start to invest heavily in local races, the state races, get every zip code counts, get folks involved at the grassroots level, because that's how it bubbles up. And one of the things that President Biden has done really well is have a cabinet and have appointees that are truly reflective of the diversity that is the American people. One of the people who is being caught up in that is Dilawar Syed, who is a Pakistani Muslim American, who is the nominee for deputy admin of the Small Business Administration, highly qualified, an amazing leader, well-respected in the community. The GOP, unfortunately, is united in an Islamophobic smear campaign against him. Meanwhile, faith leaders from Christian, Jewish, and Muslim backgrounds have come out in support of Dilawar. The vote is tomorrow. What can we do to make sure that this highly qualified individual who's nominated by President Biden passes through committee and gets voted in to begin serving the American people?
I think we put the calls in, particularly to the Democrat. Listen, in the end of the day, the Republicans are going to be lockstep in terms of opposition, and that's the bottom line. When they said no, then they are collectively. That's the one thing that they're good at. There's no daylight. When they say no, they're not going to do something, they don't do it. So I would say call all of the Democrats that are on that committee that have not come out to say whether or not they will vote to advance that nomination. Odds are they will advance the nomination. The question is whether or not it continues to be held up by the Republicans. The Senate has some real quirks as it relates to the power that one individual senator has. They can really gum up the works and hold up nominations. Right now, there are a number of State Department nominations and Department of Defense nominations being held up by Republican senators. One individual senator can hold up the works, and that's part of how the Senate operates. So eventually they will be dislodged, but we just need to make sure that we have all of our Democrats lined up in order to support the person when it comes to the floor. And even if that means that the Vice President of the United States has to cast that vote to break the tie, then that we do that. But the first thing first is let's get it out of the committee.